What up, world? You know what it is. It's Dwayne, Kevin, Daryl are they cold and black today. And so yeah, I'm just gonna hold the show down. Repping KDD. This episode we're gonna be focusing on mental illness and mental health. I have some guests here. I got my boy Chima here.
What's up?
My boy Teddy.
Yup, right here in the building.
And on the line we got Tanai. Say what up to the people.
Yo, what's good, family?
Alright, so yes, mental health. Something that the black community, I guess, is starting to kind of talk about now. They never really talked about it. It was more so, you pray it away or you beat it out of your kids or, stuff like that. And I think now it's kind of like, I think it kind of went overboard. Like, people try to diagnose mental illness for everything. Now, mind you, there are some definitely things that, are definitely illnesses that need to be addressed, or at least deficiencies that people are in denial about. But, yeah, everyone that, that read a psychology book wants to diagnose everybody. And, it's more to that. So,
yeah, I have a question. Like, I'm really curious about the OCD or the what do you call it, the attention the ADD and all that stuff with black children in particular, because I've heard stories. I have a friend that taught, like, as like yeah, I'm loud, my levels is all over the place, but I heard that like black kids specifically, something about like energy and like them being diagnosed wrong or prescribed stuff that makes them act unnatural and stuff like that. So I just started hearing about that like 2 years ago. It's interesting.
Yeah, also what I know about it is me being a psychology major, I'm not as educated as my friend over here on the phone that has trying to get a PhD. But what I do know about psychology, which is hopefully a decent amount, that ADHD is actually one of the most overly used symptoms within the field. A lot of people just overly prescribe the medicine, do whatever they can just to make sure that some of the kids can go on the medication. Now, very often, more than not, sometimes the children actually do need the medication. But the problem I feel like we have, and the stigma that we have with black children is, oh, they can't focus. Oh, there's something going wrong at home. Oh, we have other issues that are not being addressed. So instead, we use the term ADD. Or we give them other disorders, even though sometimes they are true, but more often than not, some people with ADHD should not even be labeled ADHD. They have other problems that need to be looked at.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. And the prevalence of ADHD, especially in black children, I forget. I think it's Dr. Umar Johnson that says it's not attention deficit disorder. It's I miss my daddy disorder. I don't know how true that is, but there does seem to be a higher incidence of black children being diagnosed with ADD, ADHD in single parent homes. I can also say that, like you were just saying with the symptoms, if you were to go look at the symptoms of ADHD in the DSM, that's the diagnostic.
Statistic manual.
Correct. If you look at the symptoms of ADHD, they're so broad, where it really is overdiagnosed. So part of that is planned, part of that is there's a lack of education on the doctor's part to really know what these kids are supposed to be prescribed with, and just know in general, like, okay, this is just regular kid activity. It's like it's to the point now where these symptoms are just things that we did growing up.
Indeed, I also think that when it comes to our children, they're jacked up off this high fructose corn syrup and red dye and all that other shit. That also has an effect on them. I mean, again, like you have a kid that's like doped up off of sugar. I mean, kids are they have high energy in general, like off rip. So like when you give kids candy, like they're just like they're on. it's like. They're almost on like mini Molly, like Molly for kids. You got kids rolling off of fucking high fructose
glucose, bro. All that glucose, especially going back to the topic we were just talking about with the kids going crazy off of all this high fruit corn syrup, which is basically using everything nowadays. Which I actually listened to a couple of your episodes, and bro, you are right. But there's also another problem we're having in the black community is that we have people that are taking advantage of us because it's so easy to monopolize off of black people. So you see, oh, there's a struggling black man, and I don't know. I was just at a town board meeting, so I'm hyped. But I was just at a town board meeting in Hempstead, and it's very easy to take advantage of us because they say, oh, he's in a dilapidated area. There ain't nothing there. So you know what? I know the government's going to take care of him. So you know what? Hey, he has ADHD. Yo, let me get some money off of that boy real quick. Oh, you know what? OCD. Oh, you know what? Let me find out another disorder so I can just keep draining them and draining them and draining them. Because to be honest, it's sad to say, but on this planet, not a lot of people care about each other. More than just black, white, Hispanic, or anything. You look around and you see that all people want to do is just take advantage. With our food that we eat, which as you said, the high fructose corn syrup, or the things like when we walk around and like someone falls, we don't care about them. Yo, let me just get my money, bro. Yo, let me eat. I don't care if you broke your leg, bro. It's not about that, bro. Like, that's the way we live and that's the way we act, and it's kind of messed up. And then you wonder why we have a president that doesn't care about us. Or you wonder why we have parents that are distant from their children because they live in these environments, and when they see these environments, like, it's okay, my dad treating me like garbage, and my dad wasn't even there, so even though I'm there for my kid, it's okay because I'm there, and even though I treat him like garbage, my dad wasn't even there, bro. You're lucky that I'm even here. Like, you should be happy.
Yeah, there is a stigma. Actually, I just saw this on Twitter actually today, where it was just like parents would be like, well, you're not dead, you're not in jail, so I did a good job. And I'm just like, damn, like the bar's that low, you know? So, yeah, when it comes to mental health, I also want to talk about, we'll stick with the whole children thing for a little bit before we move on to the adults and their mental illnesses. Do you think corporal punishment, spanking or, beating your children, do you think that is a sign of mental illness or that it breeds children for mental illnesses or to accept mentally ill behavior? I guess we'll start with Tanai.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe that corporal punishment on some level does influence mental illness. And there have been several studies that talk about transgenerational trauma and how corporal punishment and hitting, spanking, those things do create certain trauma markers in DNA, and then that gets passed down through the bloodline. And if you were to look at chattel slavery in America, then you could trace a lot of that behavior back to the plantation. And it's always this thing of, oh, I'd rather beat my kids so that the cops don't beat them, and that's mentally ill behavior. That's crazy. Like, why would you ever traumatize your child to keep them from being traumatized by a situation that may or may not happen? That's textbook mental illness, in my opinion, and it can be easily traced in DNA. And there have been several reports. There have been several authors that talked about it. Dr. Joy DeGruy is one of the people at the forefront of talking about transgenerational trauma. She talks about it in the context of post-traumatic slave disorder, and a lot of those behaviors that we have in the black community subconsciously come from the treatment on the plantation. And sometimes some people aren't necessarily even descendants of people that were on the plantation. They've just been ingrained and indoctrinated with that slave logic, and so they again start taking on those characteristics, and you start to see it propagate, and it definitely is mental illness. I think a lot of people don't class it that way because you just think it's normal behavior, but again, you got the inmates running the asylum, and they're accepting this as normal behavior when in actuality it does show mental illness.
True. Teddy, what's your take?
Yeah, see, this is something that I've been debating with myself. Like, I look at examples in celebrities like Bob Marley. I think he was like a really cool dad. I'm not sure if he beat his kids. I just remember one story that I think it was his son or his daughter. Like, they went up to him because they thought they were gonna get beat. They was talking to the mother, was like, "Yo, go tell your father what you did, and then he's gonna deal with you." So she went to him, and then, she told him what she did, and then he was just like, all right, like, just let it slide, like. And that showed his personality. I look at, like, Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith and their decision not to beat their kids, and, like, seeing how they turned out. Some people love them. Some people are like, yo, I don't want that. I guess if, you want your child to be geared toward that obedient mentality, then you would, I guess, want to pursue that, want to not spare the rod.
True.
See, the thing about, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to cut anybody off, but the thing about getting a child to be obedient, fear shouldn't be a motivator for a child to be obedient.
Yeah.
Because fear has a lot of downstream effects that can affect a child's cognitive behavior and their ability to problem solve. That's on the books as well, as far as, like, researching the corporal punishment. And even if you want to talk about it metaphysically, people say, oh, well, spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, it's like, well, in the riddle of the Sphinx, the rod means wisdom. The rod is indicative of knowledge. So you could easily interpret that as if you spoil your child by not giving them knowledge, or if you do not give your child knowledge and you do not give them wisdom of how to operate in this world, then essentially you spoil them. And you can see that today, where we have so many people that are inadequately equipped to deal with things from a knowledge standpoint, whether it's emotionally, physically, spiritually. They don't have that knowledge of themselves, and so that's why they continue to act out. So that actually has a dual meaning. People look at it as physically beating your child, but it's like, when you look deeper into the meaning and the symbolism of what some of these things mean, and you can start drawing a couple of parallels. And personally, I believe that spare the rod, spoil the child means that you're not giving your child the adequate knowledge on how to operate in the paradigm, and they're at a disadvantage because of it.
See, that's exactly why I came here tonight. I had that question, that specific question, because I'm into documentaries. The project I'm working on is interreligious, like, commonalities, and what you just explained with the ancient Egyptian mythological parallel to the Christian, quote saying "spare the rod, spoil the child," and then you said the exact thing that I've been wondering about, for a while now, that the Egyptian parallel, because there are a lot of parallels between Egyptian mythology and Christian mythology, and the Christian religion actually means a rod of wisdom. I'm really curious to know what that reference was, but interesting point.
You could have just said thank you, bro.
Yeah.
All right, Chima, what's your take on corporal punishment?
All right. To start off with, I really appreciate your opinion. You had something really insightful to say. So, yeah, it gave me a different output, which is actually completely opposite from yours. I'm against you. I personally believe that corporal punishment is not that bad. Number one, for example, when we talk about the statistics that you gave us, the number one problem I have with statistics in general is that they nitpick. So, for example, let's say you have like 30,000 white kids in a room, and one of them are Hispanic. You could say something like, 30,000 white kids and one Hispanic child. You could say, wow, all the Hispanic children in the room are acting up. What is going on? Let's do some studies on Hispanic kids, but let's not say a number. So therefore, we don't even have any problems. Therefore, it just looks like, the statistics are just saying that all these Hispanic kids are bad. No, you don't know. First off, you don't know the sample size. You don't know how they're using the statistics. You don't know the way they're going to use the statistics in the future, and you don't know their true purpose. And sometimes these statistics, the way they use them, is they can be using them for one thing, and then later on, they can adapt it to something else. That's why what I've learned, even though I read a lot, and I absorb a lot. Last book I read, I'm reading one right now on well-being. By Roy Meister. It's called Willpower. And one thing that you're talking about, which I can kind of understand where you're coming from, but not really, is the fact of corporal punishment and they say that, oh, it causes mental illness. There's other problems that need to be addressed that can be the cause of the mental illness. But because you have one problem and you have another problem, you can't just connect it to that first problem. For example, let's talk about Flint, Michigan.